Just 2 days after a massive explosion ripped through the city of Beirut, protesters are now out on the streets of Lebanon's capital, angered by neglect and corruption that led to this massive disaster. Lebanese security forces were seen firing tear gas to disperse dozens of anti-government demonstrators. The scuffles broke out in central Beirut near the parliament. An area still littered with wreckage from the explosion. According to the state media, some demonstrators sparked a blaze and security forces fired tear gas canisters to keep them at bay. Activists have also called for a large anti-government demonstration on Saturday. This event has been titled "Hang Them by the Gallows" by the protesters. And not just protests, citizens have been very angry with all public and political officials for the unprecedented disaster. The Lebanese Justice Minister Marie-Claude Najm was heckled on the streets of Beirut when she went to talk to the people. The video on your screens shows the angry crowd throwing water bottles at her. The massive explosion at the port of Beirut has killed at least 150 people and injured more than 5,000. 250,000 people are now homeless after shockwaves from the blast destroyed most houses in the vicinity. This comes as Lebanon is reeling under its worst economic crisis since the 1975 to 1990 civil war. It also comes on the heels of anti-government protests that have rocked the city since last year. Authorities said that the blast was triggered by a fire igniting 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate stored in a warehouse at Beirut's port since 2013. This has raised questions on how such a huge cargo of the highly explosive substance was left unsecured for so long. The Lebanese authorities have now taken into custody 16 port workers as part of an investigation into the explosion. The government has given an investigative committee 4 days to determine those responsible for this blast. Meanwhile, a petition to put Lebanon under a French mandate has garnered more than 50,000 signatures in 24 hours. This comes after French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to the city yesterday.
Merci à vous.
And so, attempting to ease Lebanon's trouble, the world has intensified support for the tragedy-struck country. The European Union has now released 33 million euros to finance emergency aid for Lebanon. Mobilized material resources. An Italian hospital ship has also been sent to help relief efforts in Beirut after this week's devastating explosions. The European Commission hopes that the fund will make it possible to cover the immediate needs of the emergency services and hospitals in the capital. In a letter to the 27 EU members, President of the European Council has called on member states to contribute to the road to recovery that lies ahead for Lebanon. 2 days after a massive explosion devastated Beirut and left hundreds of thousands homeless, the United States also delivered its first batch of supplies to the blast-devastated Beirut. The US military on Thursday delivered food, water and medical supplies to Lebanon via a C-17 military plane from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. 2 more shipments of food and water are expected to be delivered in the next 24 hours. In the meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron visited the shell-shocked city, pledging support and urging change after the disaster that has sparked grief and fury. Emmanuel Macron has announced an international aid conference for Lebanon in the next few days after the deadly and destructive explosion. Macron stressed that the aid raised during the conference would be channeled directly to the people, the relief organizations and the teams that need it on the ground.
Dans les tout prochains jours, nous organiserons, et le ministre de l'Europe et des Affaires étrangères a commencé à prendre les premiers contacts et à mobiliser ses équipes. Nous organiserons une conférence internationale de soutien et d'appui à Beyrouth et à la population libanaise, avec pour objectif de mobiliser les financements internationaux.
European countries have also mobilized aid, with the Italian Navy making available a ship with helicopter medical evacuation capability and a flight containing 8.5 tons of medical equipment. Italy has sent firemen, soldiers and specialists and even 8 tons of medical aid to Lebanon. Members of the Algerian Red Crescent are also preparing food aid packages to be sent to the Lebanese people. The fallout in Lebanon is expected to cost billions in a small country already plunged into an unprecedented economic and social crisis, battling the coronavirus, and where almost half of the inhabitants already live in poverty. The chemicals that led to Beirut's massive explosion arrived in the Lebanese capital 7 years ago on a leaky Russian-leased cargo ship. But according to that ship's captain, the ammonium nitrate should have never stopped at Beirut. Boris Prokoshev was the former captain of the ship that brought over 2,700 tons of the chemical to the capital. In October 2013, the MV Rosus, a ship sailing under the Moldovan flag, headed from Georgia to Mozambique. But the Rosus made a stop at Beirut because the owner got greedy and wanted them to pick up an extra cargo. According to the former captain, the ship received orders to divert to Beirut on its way. But the ship never left Beirut, getting involved in a lengthy legal dispute over port fee. The captain and lawyers accused the ship's owner of abandoning the vessel and succeeded in having it arrested. Months later, the ammonium nitrate was unloaded and was put in a dock warehouse for safety reasons. It remained there for 7 years before the stockpile caught fire 3 days ago.
Ой, я не знаю, почему там взрыв получился. А вот то, что он там, груз находился столько времени, я вот это понять не могу. Потому что 10 месяцев мы там находились в Бейруте, грузовладелец не объявился, ничем о себе не напомнил. И после этого мы с 2014 года, а груз выгрузили где-то, как я знаю, в 2015 году.
While the stockpile should not have been there in the first place, Boris said that the Lebanese authorities were very well aware that dangerous cargo was there. The former captain believes that the disaster was a fault of the Lebanese authorities. While Boris could have never imagined that this disaster would unfold in the capital, the former captain says that he would have never boarded that ship if he knew what he knows now. Documents circulating on social media indicate that Lebanese officials were repeatedly warned of the risks. 6 letters were written by customs officials to a Lebanese court, written between 2014 and 2017. All of them went unanswered. With more and more facts coming to light, the main question that remains is how did a 2,700-ton stockpile of highly explosive chemicals end up lying around in the heart of downtown Beirut? That too for